Happy Friday evening. Hey, it's Tom from Inspiration Metalworks, and I'm doing a live stream for the first time I'm in my shop in quite a while, so hopefully it's going to work out all right. Still got some network issues going on, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, I just wanted to invite everybody to a little discussion. So, we'll give people a minute. There we go. That's a little better. We'll give people a minute to get caught up. It is, it's almost 7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see who can join, who's not around today. And as you can tell, I am sick as a dog. So I do apologize about that, but hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Yeah, so today's discussion, this is something that I wanted to talk about for a while because I'll be honest with you, there are quite a few people who have seemed to give the impression that you have to have these big machines in order to do the Titans of CNC Academy. Or conversely, I know a lot of makers, a lot of people who would love to be out and creating things, who think that the Academy is only if you want to become a machinist and you want to go off and do that sort of thing. And so I'll talk a little bit about both of these things and what we do a little bit differently here in our small group. But just in general, let's just have a quick discussion about this because I'll be honest with you, the Academy, it's not what a lot of people think. And I think it's a great curriculum. I mean, it really is an amazing curriculum. But let's put a few things to rest. Larry, hey buddy, good to see you. Glad I got a chance to catch up with you in Texas. Hopefully you didn't catch whatever it is that I got. But yeah, I got back from that trip. I was at the Good of the Land Fest. And over this past weekend out in Lindale, Texas, and came back, and I've just been dragging ever since. But let's talk a little bit about the Titans of CNC Academy. Let's do a couple of things. I'm going to bring up another window here, and we're gonna do a couple things. Sorry about this, folks. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. Typically, I like to have things a little bit nicer ahead of time, but we'll see here. So let's switch my screen. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Academy. So if you don't know, Titan Gilroy of Titans of CNC, he's got this free training academy out there called it's Titans of CNC Academy, right? So academy.titansofcnc.com. In here, there's all kinds of things. In fact, the one that was just up, let's go to that one. Let's go to the building blocks. Right. So the building block series is the first of the series that he did. Right. So all of these different parts, right, you go through and they build on each bit of the system that you've done. So, for instance, we'll do this one right here, number 2. This is 2M. You've had to learn how to do your basics, how to do some drilling and tapping and things like that. Well, what's nice about this is it builds on all these things, but you don't have to have a mill to do it. In fact, here, let me switch back to my other view. Here's a 3D printed version of that part, right? Threads and all, in fact, like the threads work. 3D printed, just like that. So the first thing that you get out of this is the ability to do your designs and test them out, right? You don't have to have big machines. You got 3D printer, whatever, take it to a makerspace, whatever you're gonna do, you can start using this. So the instruction that you get, even if all you do is focus on just the design side of it, you're gonna learn how to make a lot of different kinds of things, right? But let's say you do go to a place where you can do the machining and you can actually make the part, right? So here it is in aluminium for my friends across the pond, right? Same part, right? It takes you to that next step. You don't have to be a machinist. You don't have to want to be a machinist. The whole thing that you're really getting out of this is that you don't have to go out and buy everything. You can make things for yourself. You can design things yourself. You can get in there and really start working with the equipment that you have and things like that. Hey, Zach, good to see you. Yeah, you can 3D print, right? I know you've got you've got that printer, so why not? Go through the academy, right? Start working on it. There's a lot of things that you can do. It's going to teach you so many different things. So yeah, so that's the first thing. So let's talk about what it takes to do these parts, right? Let's first talk about, well, so Zach's on, I see he's watching right now. Let's actually look at what it takes to actually make this part on a printer. So I'm going to switch views again. We'll go back to my Fusion view, and we'll go into the design view. So once you've done your drawing, and in fact this one doesn't have everything on it, because it some of the things that I would do, like the print calls for chamfers on all this, right? So we want to break all your edges with a 10 thou chamfer. I do that in the CAM part of it. If you were going to do this as a model that you were going to 3D print, you should actually put all of the different chamfers, so here and here, things like that. You should put that in there. But really all you have to do when you're ready to go is you right click on that body that you created and save as STL. Now you've got that model that you can put into your slicer and put into whatever printer you have, right? It's that simple, right? So click on Save as STL, pops up, what's your selection? Here, it's this file, it's binary, you can't tell it to do ASCII. You can give it a preview if you want to have a preview mesh in there, right? How refined do you want this to be? How pretty are you trying to make it? In some cases, you can even send it to a 3D print system on your machine. So Print Studio, you see Mesh Mixer, Preform, or Custom. I don't ever do that. I just go ahead and save the STL. Click OK. It wants to know where you're going to put it. Here's my downloads. Click Save. That's it, right? Bring it into your slicer, and you are now ready to go, right? So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's take it a step further though. So here, and you can see it behind me, I've got a big VMC here, but I've also got a Tormach 440, the smallest of the, really it's a benchtop size machine, right? I still make these parts on there. In fact, I host Academy Small Group number 83, and that's the machine that people make parts on, is the 440. I think it actually teaches you more than having a machine that you can just brute force your way through on a mistake. With this machine, you have to be right. It doesn't have enough horsepower to power through something. If you make a mistake, you push it too hard, it's going to stall. So you get really good at listening to what's happening and how it's going. But the other things that you have to take into account when you're doing that is you have to take a slightly different approach. So as you can see, I've got in my CAM, this is how I do it on my Tormach, this is how I do it on the VMC. I've got the brother, right? So let's focus just on the Tormach right now, right? Because there's some things in here that are a little different. We're going to use a fly cutter first off. Some things are the same though. You want to make sure that when you're coming in, you're giving it plenty of room to come in and clear fully before it comes out, right? No different than the face mills that you're seeing on in the videos that Titan does. The next thing that I do on this one is I came in and I did an adaptive clearing. So I did a 3D adaptive clearing. Now with 3D, the difference, and this is something that a lot of people don't always follow. The difference between 2D and 3D adaptive clearing is that in 2D adaptive, you tell it the specific height that you want it to work on. In 3D adaptive, you just tell it the body and you give it a range and say anything that's in this area. And the system is smart enough to figure out what needs to happen. So here's my 3D adaptive, and if you look, there's a lot of little cuts in here. If we were to compare that to the big VMC, you'll see it can take a bigger bite, right? So very different approach. So you have to come in here, even though it's the same CAM operation, you have to know what your machine can and can't do. Ace Davis, howdy. Hey, sorry. I'm a little behind too, so I'm trying to watch a couple screens at once. But yeah, so you have to do things a little differently. So let's come in and take a look at it. In this case, we're running a 3/8 inch end mill, right? It's a 3-flute, high helix. We're blasting it. We're using every bit of spindle that we've got, right? But we're still cutting at 75 inches a minute, right? So it's pretty good speed. But you notice feed per tooth is 1.5 thou, right? The big thing here, so you look at our geometry, our heights, things like that, that's pretty standard on this one. You notice how I tell it to go a little below, right? We have to, when we're doing this, take into account the radius on the end mill, things like that. Exactly the same kinds of things that you get in the instruction, right? But here, in the passes tab, this is where we really start to diverge. And you'll see